Alright, welcome back guys to part 4 of the Dakota rebuild. Today we're just going to be repairing the rust on the driver's side door, as you can see here, and the rocker panel pinch welds. Right now I'm just using a cutoff wheel to get into that really tight space on the outer door skin that folds over into the inner part. I don't really have any tool to get into there, but this cutoff wheel works perfect. It gets right in there, and as long as you don't put any hard pressure, uh, it'll do just fine. Right here you see I'm just removing a very thin layer of the rust. And it comes out great. The rust on this door wasn't too bad, but as you can see there in the middle, I did lose some metal. So it right in the middle it did get a little bad, but all around it was I had some pretty healthy metal. I had already done a little bit of cleaning off camera before I started recording, but this pretty much just shows what I did, and it's a lot less dusty since most of it's gone. Here I tried using the diamond big grinder, but it really didn't work for this scenario, I guess. So I just decided to stop using that. Yep, so at this point I guess I was already done cleaning. Just blowing it off, blowing all that dust off. And it's ready for acid now. I'll show it right now. I love this stuff. Autotech Rust Prep. It's amazing. Gotta give it a good shaking and then you can spray it down. The bottles always leak a little bit though, like right where it sprays. That's why I'm wearing gloves, because it always gets on your hands. I'm gonna assume acid like that's not really the best for your skin. Yeah, right here I'm just applying a nice little coat of it. It's best not to lay it down too thick or too wet, just to the point where it's not puddling. Because if it puddles up, it's never gonna dry up. Alright, so while that's curing on the inside, I'll start getting some work done on the outside here. The rust kind of crept up just a little bit, but not too much. If this door were to sit and not be repaired, and it were to be allowed to keep rusting, it'll just keep destroying that middle part of the door. Kind of like how the right side got destroyed in the front part of the door, like just completely gone. So at least this one wasn't as bad. Yeah, but that spaghetti wheel works magic. It's amazing. And I have the good wheel on it too. There are different kinds. There's like a green one. There's a black one. In my opinion, the black one is the worst. It's like the least dense. The green one and this purple one are very dense, and it lasts for a long time. The only issues with these is that they like to tear up into pieces as you use them. You know, because it's not gonna last forever. But the stuff that comes off, it just comes at you, like some of them real hard. It doesn't hurt. It just kind of like it's like a small sting. So it's very important to wear your safety glasses when you're using a spaghetti wheel like that. Alright, blowing her off. Yeah, the whole lower lip had a little bit of rust coming over. I had to be careful not to hit the flare either, because then I'd just make more work for myself. I should have put more tape, or I should have put tape on it to begin with. Luckily I didn't hit it though, so. Alright, just moving the stuff out of the way. I'm gonna acid spray it now. Pretty neat. Just pretty much gotta get it all over the rust. You can see I got it on the frame a little bit. I think I made sure to clean that up after. Before it started doing damage. Now this side of the rocker was a little worse. You can see here it was a little munched up in the back. You can also see the door too. It's way worse. So this right side got most of the salt, I guess. It's a lot of fun cleaning up the rust though. It's like I think I already said this before, but it's satisfying. Seeing all that like orange rust and then just grinding it all away down to bare metal. Yeah, I made sure to fast forward it too, because this would be the video again was like 55 minutes long, almost an hour, and I shortened this one down a lot, cut a lot of stuff, and fast forward a few things to help out. Yeah, that door was bad. Yeah, that front piece of the rocker too got hit a little hard too. Maybe even a little worse than the back right there, because it kind of crept up the rocker. It wasn't just on the pinch weld. I made sure to clean it all up though. Here the diamond grinder works a lot better here, because right where the factory spot welds are, they kind of think of it as like mini craters all over the panel, and the grinder and spaghetti wheel weren't able to reach into it. Now that I do prefer the spaghetti wheel over the grinder, like what I'm using right now, and for rust removal, because the spaghetti wheel doesn't remove a lot of material. It just removes like the soft. It doesn't remove metal. It just removes like the paint or rust on top of it. It's a very light, uh, um, coarse material. I don't know, but the grind wheel right there, that's very coarse, and that will cut through a lot of metal. So you gotta be careful. I pretty much only use it in like the heavy rust areas, because when metal starts to rust really bad, it forms like layers over itself. Because if you put in like a, I don't know how to say it, like a piece of paper over it, and the the spaghetti wheel will just grind over it or just clean it from the top, but it won't remove that piece. And it's important to do that because there'll be more rust under it. It's pretty much kind of like I guess like a shell on top of it. And the grinder does a really good job at knocking that little shell off. Maybe a better word is like scaling, like a scale. I don't know, whatever. Here's the treated metal after the acid is dried. As you can see, there's like no orange. There's like no more rust on it. I still got some prep work to do for primer. You can't just prime it like that. First, you have to you'll get a Scotch-Brite, lightly dampened. It was a little too wet. Yeah. Just get a damp Scotch-Brite, light abrasive, they say on the labeling, and you just scuff it off like the white residue it leaves behind. It seems kind of counterintuitive having like water on top of like bare metal and rust like that. So usually what I do after I do that is I just grab a napkin and I dry it off a little faster instead of just letting it dry naturally. Now, the first time I was using this acid was on my S10 restoration, and I recently got my, during that process I had my frame sandblasted, and it sat for about 2-3 days, and I started seeing like just little particles of rust all over the frame starting to pop up, because it was just sitting in the open for, like I said, 2 days. So I started freaking out, and I got that acid spray, and I sprayed the whole frame in it. It did good. It dried up like that, left that white residue, but I read the label and I'm like, water? I'm not putting water on this. That'll just completely rot the whole thing out again. So I decided not to do it. I just scuffed it. And, I painted the frame, the thunder coat, and it looked amazing when I painted it. But then the next day I came back and, oh my gosh, there were bubbles everywhere in the paint. It was horrible. That was no good. I had to redo about, I'm trying to remember, like maybe 85% of the frame. I had to grind the paint where it bubbled all over it, everywhere. And then after I grinded it, I had to feather it out like actually like I'm doing right here. Because for here, for example, right where the paint meets the metal, there's like the edge there is not smooth. It's like maybe like it goes a little higher up, because the bare metal's flat. Let's just say it's like level 0, and the paint adds like a little film thickness of, let's say, like 0.1, so it's not smooth. And when you paint over it, you'll see that line, and that's what happened with the frame. I had to, once I grinded out all those bubbles, I had to feather it out, make it smooth again, so that I could paint over it and not leave marks. And let me tell you, that took me all day. At the end of the day, I was completely black. Everything. There's dust everywhere. And then the stuff that I didn't grind to bare metal, you have to scuff it, or else the paint won't stick to it. So I pretty much went over that frame 3 times. It was horrible, and then I had to wax the grease, move it. It was bad. So I make sure to really use that water now with the acid, or else I'll get that same issue again. Yeah, here back to the Dakota. Here I was using the DA right at the edge over there, but it didn't fit very well, so I just went to the hand block. I think I was using 80 grit. And the primer won't cover 80 grit. The 80 grit, the scratches are too harsh, and when you prime over it, you'll see all the scratches. So after you feather with 80, you go with 180 to erase the scratches, and primer will cover 180. I'll make a more in-depth video one day when I'm repairing a vehicle. Like a dent on an outer panel. This is kind of hard to show. Yeah, here I'm using 180. I'm moving the 180 scratches and scuffing further out a bit for the primer to lay. Yeah, it was coming up pretty good. You gotta make sure all the paint is scuffed too. You don't want any spots that weren't scuffed. That's where the paint won't stick, or the primer. Alright, now we're moving on to the outside. At this point, I had already, I don't know if it showed in the clip before when I was cleaning the acid off. I also did it on the rockers and on the outside of this door panel. Or maybe not the rockers yet, I don't remember, but I definitely did the door. You don't want to do that before. You don't want to sand like that before cleaning up the acid. And here I do have a lot more access, so I can feather out. Oh, and you can see how much the rust removed the metal on that lower lip. Yeah, I like that little DA sander. It works good. It's not really good for feathering out, which is what I'm using it for right now. So it seems to take a lot longer than it should, but it's all right. I like using that DA sander better than the bigger ones. It's easier to control. It's kind of weird looking back at this because at this point I already have that primed, and the box I already have the panel on there and everything. I just haven't gotten around to recording the audio and uploading these videos, so I'm a little behind on that. Yeah, here I am again, not putting tape on that outer panel. Luckily I didn't hit it, so I think I'm about to get some tape to put on there. Because the last thing I want is to damage that fender and then have to repaint it. Or actually I'm going to repaint the flare anyway, but I don't want to have to put more primer than I need to. This tape will prevent that from happening. It's nice to put a couple layers too, because if you hit it, if it's just one layer of the DA, it'll just chew right through it. Alright, it doesn't look done yet. I don't know if I finished it off in this video. It still looks rough, but I'll clear it up better. Yeah, here I am doing the 180 now. Moving the 80 scratches. And I guess it was feathered off. Okay. Yeah, next video you'll see the Bondo work. And how I repair the door and prime everything. It's pretty cool. Alright, well, it looks like that's it for this video, guys. Hope you enjoyed. I'll be uploading the next one soon, too. Alright, see you guys.